Not everybody will have the money to purchase it. That's not for you to decide.
Like the delusion is like thinking we're going to work part-time, and
Yeah.
actually build a business, that we're going to work part-time and actually grow, that we're going to do minimal. We're going to do the same thing we've been doing, which is just running calls. We're going to just remain with the same skill set. Again, the employee mindset, and that somehow things will change. What's up, HVAC millionaires? I've got the famous Kelly McKay here with me today, again in this episode. And today we are talking about some harsh truths. We are going to talk about the 3 delusions that are destroying your destiny. So let's just hop right into it. Kelly, do you want to go over number 1?
And I've got the famous Coach Natalia with me today. So
Hello,
yeah, but
hello.
let's get into it. I mean, some of these things are going to be really harsh truths, and just know that we come from a place of we love our HVAC contractors out there, but some of you guys need to wake up, and that's what we're talking about today. So one of the big things is the whole like I'm not a salesperson thing, right?
Mm,
And believe me, I'd never had sales. It was never even in my mind at all when I first opened my company. You just don't look at it that way, especially when you are a technician turned business owner. You don't look at it as sales when you go and replace a part and collect money. But at some point, as I was just busy and running like crazy nonstop and still had no money. We still grew a little bit, and I think most people do grow a little bit just with volume. Like the
yeah.
volume increases because you're good, fast, and cheap. And as this volume increases, you do get a little bit more money, but your expenses also start to climb. Your overhead starts to climb as well at some point. And at some point, there's just zero return or negative return where you're just losing money every day and you don't even know why because you're busier than ever, but there's no money left over. Most people who haven't worked for a truly successful business and then started their own company, so if they just copied what a really successful company did because that's who they worked for and went into business, they tend to do a little better in the beginning. That wasn't who I came from. I came from businesses that weren't doing that great, and I copied what they did. And guess what? It didn't work that great. Sales, you tell me how you feel about this subject because I know you went through this too.
Yeah. So, one of the sayings that I've been saying for myself and for students and out there in internet land is I am rooted in reality. I am not damaged by delusions or idealism. So, what do I mean by that? I feel like people, when they're adverse to sales, like it's a
Like
delusion.
98%
It's
of
a
them.
delusion. It's delusional. It is destructive to your business, to your thinking, to your customers as well. Because, I mean, how are you adverse to the very thing that keeps the business alive?
I think it's subconscious personally. So I think
Mm-hmm.
that because even for me, there's that subconscious stuff under there when it comes to sales. So I know I've shared this before in a training, but this book right here, To Sell Is Human by Dan Pink, he asked the question to people, what do you think of when you hear the word sales? And he created this what's called a word cloud. And you'll see it right here. The biggest words there were the words that came up the most often for people. So people think yuck, hard, difficult, annoying, pushy, ugh, sleazy, slimy. And there are some good words in there like necessary. um,
Yeah, but they're the ones tiny,
aggressive,
right?
but that's the minority of people.
Minority of people
Yeah.
feel that way.
Yeah, and then get this, he just changed the question a little bit, and he said, "What is the picture that comes to mind when you think about sales?" And guess what those words were? Obviously, the top one there is car salesman,
Mhm.
used car salesman, man in a suit, pushy, sick, slick. Like, so it's not it's not that anything's wrong with you if these thoughts and feelings come up when, but we have to deprogram this out of your mind because you are in business now.
Yeah. Yes, we need to root you into reality
Yes.
because a business thrives on sales.
And, part of the reason why, either if the business isn't growing or if you're not making the decisions that you need to make, or hire the people you need to hire, it all boils down to, most of the time, what's in the bank account. You show me any business owner who quite possibly needs to learn how to run a business, so they need to be educated in business, and
Yeah,
that requires an investment. You show me somebody who needs to hire somebody who needs to have an office, who needs to buy another vehicle. If they're not doing those things, it's because they lack money. It's nothing else. They can pretend it's something else, but it's not. It's money. They can sit around and say there's no good people to hire. We'll talk about that in a minute. But the reality is if you had plenty of money, you could hire somebody.
100. And then
And
they
how do you
avoid the
get
one
money? You
thing.
get money by creating sales.
Yeah, and I was going to say that. And then they avoid the one thing that would actually give them some money in the bank account, right? And it's like,
Exactly.
how come I'm not gaining any traction here? Right. And it's like, back to what I said earlier, right? I'm not damaged by delusion or idealism, right? Like wishing that things were different than what they are. Like again, a bit wishing that we didn't have to make sales in order to grow a business, in order to have money, or you didn't have to do it, or even thinking that you're you know, icky for doing. It's like you're icky for doing the one thing that provides for your family, for your team, that allows you to hire more people. Like, how do you hire more people unless you go out there and make more money? And so it's so, like, it's just such a, you know, mind fuck to people. It's like we're avoiding. And I think what you're saying is so true, Kelly, where it is truly most of the time, majority of the time, a subconscious thing, right? You look at media, and that's one thing for myself is like, I'm not going to put anything into my brain that is making me delusional, right? Like, but if you look, like, again, in media, it's like all the villains, like, watch a movie, the villains are like making the money, right? Maybe you grew up with people that are like, oh, well, they're greedy.
Yeah, they're
That's how
ripping
they
people
made it.
off.
That's how they made it. They're greedy. They take advantage of people,
Yeah.
right? All these delusional things. And that's why it's like, okay, we're here to make the shift. So, Kelly, tell me, what does sales actually mean?
Sales is just service. When you provide an outstanding service, it costs money. It costs more money. That's why some of your competitors who do charge three, four, five times what you charge, whether they have the greatest technicians in town or not, I promise you the service they deliver is superior to the service you're delivering all around, from the technology they use, from the interactions they have when they call their office, to if they need something after hours. There is something that's superior to you. So we can just sit around and say, oh, they're ripping people off, or we can face reality and say, look, they're doing something that I'm not doing that I probably should be doing. I always like to tell people it's like if I cut my arm and I need stitches, I go to the doctor, right? And the doctor says, okay, well, let me sew that right up. Go ahead and lift your arm above your head. And let's say I can't because my shoulder's messed up. Well, the doctor says, well, I can fix that and it's going to cost X amount of dollars. To fix that, he's going to have to, it requires surgery, right? So he'll sew me up, but I need to schedule a surgery and it's going to cost me. But after the surgery, if I have full movement of my shoulder again, my life changes.
100.
If I just get my arm sewed up and that's it, my life doesn't change. It's the same for your customers. If you're picking up what I'm putting down, it's the same for your customers. You got to go below the surface, find out what else they could benefit from, offer it, and then look, if they say yes, you have the ability to change their lives. People don't believe this. I know my company has lots of reviews of lives that we changed simply because we offered something below the surface level. And yes, it costs more because we're going to change your life, just like a surgery costs more. So you have to look at it like if you deliver a really great service and you're offering some options and people say yes, sometimes they're going to say yes. Then you have the ability to transform that system for that home, for that family. And that costs money. And there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah. And it's so crazy because people want to, people want to provide, they want to give their employees insurance, give their employees bonuses, right? Like, you want your employees to buy that brand new house, to get those things. Like, people want to change other people's lives, but then they don't want to do the thing that's actually going to do that.
I can't help but laugh because I've talked to lots of business owners who tell me they're one person in a truck and they tell me, I don't want to be in the truck anymore. Well, how do you think that's going to be possible for you to ever get out of a truck? You can either leave the business and go do something else, or you're going to have to learn how to sell and how to stop being funny when it comes to money.
Mm-hmm.
That's the only way you're ever going to have enough money in your bank account to afford to hire somebody. And then you're going to have, guess what? You're going to have to become a leader then. You're going to have to show them how to do what you do
Mm-hmm.
so that you can repeat the process. And then you're talking scalability. But how can you expect and even talk about? This is really a pet peeve of mine. How can you even talk about getting out of the truck when you don't even have one employee yet? And why would somebody even work for you? I think we'll move on. We'll be moving into that in just a moment, but it's a pet peeve of mine. You're not going to get out of the truck unless you just leave the heating air business. If you don't learn how to sell and learn how to run your company,
Yeah.
period. No,
Yeah.
get out of this delusion.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And if you don't like the word, if you don't like the four-letter word sell, like, make an offer. Switch that in your brain. Offer things to your clients. I know we were having this conversation off camera, as it always starts, but it was like you were saying, like, if, I was letting you know, like, if you went to my neighbor's house and offered him or her the best out there, and then you came to my house, let's say we're talking about a brand new pool with, right, like granite and waterfalls and all these things, right, and you went and you showed them the best, but then you came to my house and showed me the least. Like, why are you doing that? Right. And so when I feel like people go into people's homes and then they don't make an offer, they don't offer them the best of the best that could improve their life, that would make me mad as a consumer. That would make me mad. That is offensive to me.
Yeah, and if you're watching this, I'm going to get under your skin right now because what she's describing is called discrimination. And you're probably doing it if you're struggling with sales. We literally put on a little class for another heating and air conditioning company when I still owned my business. The owner and their team came in and we had this scenario. And the technician tells me, he says, well, what if they're on a fixed income? I said, okay, great. So you're going to discriminate because of how much money they have? You're not going to offer the same awesome service
Mhm.
that you could offer to somebody else who has a nicer house, a bigger house, who you think has money? That's discrimination. It happens every single day in the heating air. All the home service companies do it. Stop discriminating. Every customer deserves to hear what it is that you could do to help improve their system, improve their lives. Not everybody will have the money to purchase it. That's not for you to decide. It's for the homeowner to decide.
Yeah, you just offer the solutions. And it goes back to what you were talking about earlier, like if you went into the doctor and you're like getting stitched up. So what if the doctor was just like, I'm not going to mention that I could fix his shoulder, right? You're
Yeah.
still walking around for the rest of your life with that messed up shoulder when you could have taken the doctor's offer.
Yeah. And I don't know who wouldn't take it, you know, in that scenario. Well,
Mhm.
that's the same with your customers. You have products and services that are so good if you care at all, if you give a damn and you actually do provide really great service, then you do have some pretty phenomenal things that you can offer people. And some of them would really be silly to say no to some of your offers, but you got to offer it first. So many
Yeah.
times people get in their own like, okay, well, if I create an offer and it's $2,800 or $3,600 and it solves all these problems, let's say it solves 5 different problems that the customer is having problems with, and it improves the efficiency and the longevity and the comfort of the home and the system. If I do that and the customer says yes to a $3,600 offer, well, this is back to now they just purchased a lot more of your service, right? So now they
Mhm.
actually get to experience your company at a deeper level. They get, and it's a win-win. You didn't sell them anything. They purchased more service from you. So now they get all the benefits of all these wonderful things that you produced for them and actually did the work on and sold them. And in turn, your company gets to reap the rewards of selling more of your time. Believe it or not, we are in the time selling business. You have X amount of hours throughout the day. And instead of just running from call to call to call, putting band aids on shit, we need to do a better job and provide a better service. And when you do that, your business can transform. We've seen it over and over and over again. We have a system, a complete system on how to do this.
Yeah, let's go into feeling funny about the money because that's like bare minimum. I mean, that's the bottom of the mindset, right? Is feeling funny about the money. Like it's not even sales that somebody is
No,
uncomfortable with.
it,
It's
it's not the
money.
sales at
It
all.
is it is actually the conversation of money, the thought of money, anything money that's like making somebody associate that with sales. Like sales means I'm collecting more money, right? And so therefore I feel funny. It's that is the root.
Yeah,
That
it's
is the
not
reality.
sales.
That is the reality. Like you feel funny about money. Let's just call it what it is. Money makes you uncomfortable. Money makes you feel icky. When you're asking for money, you feel pushy. That is a you problem. That is not a customer problem. That is a you problem. Let's
Well,
call it what it is.
we've all been in situations where we go into avoidance because we don't want to face reality. We've all done it. I've done it. You know, sometimes that You can just ruminate in that for years, right?
Mhm.
Happens. It's the same with this. If you avoid looking at the bank account, if you avoid
Mm.
having conversations with customers surrounding a price for one of your services that you're offering, it's no different than if you're in a relationship and you know that every time the subject of money comes up, it creates a fight. Instead of just talking about it and getting through that fight with your spouse, you avoid the situation.
Mm.
If you avoid this situation when it comes to business, which sales is the lifeblood of your business will die. So you have to
Yeah.
face reality, tell the truth. Like, yeah, I've been avoiding sales. I've been avoiding like, I'm watching tech videos instead of learning how to sell something.
Mm.
And it's not even sales, it's just service. So there's a huge distinction there. When you just do a thorough job, you're going to find all kinds of possibilities for the customer. All you got to do is offer them, put them into a format that you can read to the customer and offer it. And what do you know? Some people will say yes. And it could just transform your business.
And I know we make it, way more human, way more comfortable in the way that we teach things as well,
Yes.
right? So it's like, but you have to have the conversations, period. Period.
Yeah. No conversations. There'll be no urgency for the customer to do anything, too. So you can, that's why this is a system. It's not just, it's like people who raise their prices. Yeah, you may need to raise your prices, but
Mm.
that's not going to fix everything.
Yeah. I get excited about this because I want to help people make this shift, right? So it's like as we uncover the root of like it's the conversation of money, what are some practices that people can start to do in their life so that they get comfortable about money? And so one of the things is like the way you spend your energy around money. Like, so are you always looking for the lowest price? Are you always being the person who wants a discount? Do you give people a problem? Right? Do you always buy bare minimum? I mean, even if you, right, it's like a soap that you go to the store to buy, and you can start to shift your mindset a little bit. Look for value. Like, look for value instead of just always the cheap thing. And usually the thing of value, typically, I want to say like 99.9% of the time, the thing that costs more is more valuable. Like that's just how reality works. Like that is reality, right? Like a Lamborghini costs more than a Toyota, right? Would we say that the Lamborghini has more value, right? Again, depends on the buyer. However, like think about this, right? And start to apply it in your life. It's so funny because, some of the people around me, as I was making the shifts in my mindset, like some of the people around me too, I have a house manager and she would be like, "Oh, well, we can get some stuff at the dollar store like a lot cheaper." And then when we actually looked, like in the beginning, it was like baby wipes. It was like, oh, we could get this, right? But then when we looked at the reality of it, there was like 30 wipes in this dollar package, right? And then for like two more dollars, it was like 10x the amount inside of that package. So actually, the one with more value, the one that actually was costs more, had more value than the cheap dollar one when we actually did the math and looked at reality. So these are some of the things that you can go start to apply in your life today is like start looking for value rather than paying attention to price. When you do that, then you can become a buyer of value right? And then you will also start to attract buyers who love value.
Your description there is like somebody, driving 10 miles to save 3 cents a gallon on gas.
Oh man.
It's like
People do it. People do
I
it.
know, I
It's
know.
delusion. That's why I'm saying these like it's destroying like it's just destructive. It's just it makes no sense. It is not reality. So yeah, finish that cuz
Well, I was
yeah.
just going to say convenience is one of the reasons why people do business with you. It's the same reason why I'll stop at a certain convenience store is convenience. I'm not
Mhm.
driving to go save cents and pennies anywhere. I'm going to go where it's convenient. I don't
Yeah.
care what the gas costs.
Mhm.
And that's not because I've been this way even when I had no money. To worry about pennies like that, it's taking up a lot of space in your mind for one reason that you could free up to go learn some sales stuff that could change your life.
Yeah, so you
Um,
don't have to worry about pennies.
you don't have to worry about pennies anymore. But I know some people are just wired that way. They grew up with their parents always looking at gas, and their parents would drive that extra 5 miles
Mhm.
to go get go save pennies.
Yeah, spending hours looking through papers to clip a $3 coupon when you're like, what the hell? Like, when you do the math, like it doesn't make sense, right? Because you can make way more go running a service call, right? And making some offers than trying to penny pinch and do all this weird destructive shit. And that's one of the things that, right? It's like this is what gives you leverage too. So I think this leads us right into the next one. It's around hiring.
Yeah, yeah. So when it comes to this, also goes back to those people who I've had conversations with, who are like, I want to get out of the truck, right?
Hmm.
But nobody wants to work. I hear that a lot as well,
Yeah, that's a delusion that no one wants
and
to work. No one in the universe ever, and all these billions of people, like no one wants to work. That's what you're saying.
if there are other successful companies in your surrounding area, it's an absolute delusion because they have employees, right? And that's the thing too, is good employees aren't just out looking for a job. They already have a job. Probably a very stable, secure job with benefits,
Hmm.
with camaraderie, with a team, maybe culture. I don't know, maybe a leadership team. Maybe they also have a job where growth is a possibility. So if you can't provide that because you've chosen not to grow yourself as a leader, why would anybody come work for you? Why? Anybody who has experience. Why would they leave something that's stable with benefits with great pay? Because if they're good, they're making bank. So that's the thing too, is we want somebody good to come work for us. We want to pay them less than what they would make for the company that they work for. We want to give them less benefits, give them a crappy vehicle, right? Have no growth, significant growth in the company so that they have positions that they can grow into, and we expect them to come work for us. It's not going to happen. It's a delusion. It's an absolute delusion. So there is not a labor shortage. And I'm speaking for somebody who's made every mistake in the book when it comes to being a leader, right? I've made so many mistakes. I had lots of good people leave. So um, I'm not on some soapbox here. But what I'm saying is it's not a labor issue, it's a leadership issue. It's not a lack of labor, it's a lack of leadership. When you transform into the person that you're capable of transforming into,
Hmm.
because I believe in you, Coach Natalia believes in you, then maybe you'll be able to have the capacity to attract somebody who would take a chance and come
Hmm.
work with you if you're a smaller business.
Yeah, and it goes back even to the money thing. Like if there is no money, like how can you, right? How can you buy back your time, create leverage for yourself, and pay someone well to come work for you, right? So the first one uh, definitely impacts the second one 100%. I mean, the first one will always impact your business. So hiring, right? That's a delusion. It's a delusion. There's so many people in this world that have to pay their bills and take care of their children and eat and have a roof over their head. So maybe, like what you're saying, could we just get curious here? And maybe there are skills that you're missing, mindsets that you have that are the constraint to hiring people. Like maybe you don't have recruiting skills. Maybe you don't know how to persuade. Maybe you don't know how to make a job offer. Maybe your
Maybe you're
offer
too busy
sucks.
putting out fires all day and working in the field that you don't have time to stop and actually give some attention and focus to this.
100.
It's
And
not
then
just
if that
about
is,
attracting the talent and getting them on your team, but then you got to retain them.
mm-hmm, yeah.
And people want to be supported. They want training. They want to improve their lives. The right people.
Mm-hmm.
That's what they want.
Yeah.
So if you can't do that, if you don't do that for yourself, how on earth do you expect somebody who needs this and wants this for their career to come work for you? So you have to change. You got to be the change, I always say, right? Be the change.
Mm-hmm.
So once you change and you start making the deposits in you by learning leadership, by learning business, so that you have a fighting chance to do something great, then maybe you can attract some really good people to come work for you and give them what they need to feel supported and to help them grow.
Yeah.
But it starts with you.
Let's move to number 3.
Number 3 is something that we've all been indoctrinated into if you went to the public school system, and that's just having the employee mindset. Oftentimes people, if you act like an employee, you'll get paid like one.
So I go back to the delusion. Like the delusion is like thinking we're going to work part-time, and
Yeah.
actually build a business. That we're going to work part-time and actually grow. That we're going to do minimal. We're going to do the same thing we've been doing, which is just running calls. We're going to just remain with the same skill set. Again, the employee mindset, and that somehow things will change. That I'll have the same. I think that's delusional. Like
The
thinking that
reality
I'm,
of that is that if you look at the truth behind that is you want a part-time job.
mm,
You want a part-time job where you can call yourself the boss. You don't want a business, you don't want to grow a business, you just want a part-time job. And that's fine, but why have all the stress, have to deal with all the tax crap and
mm-hmm,
payroll, anything that comes with the business. The
yeah,
stress of having to, calm customers down when they become upset. Why not just go work for somebody? Let them deal with it. You just run your calls. You could work part-time. If you're a good tech, just about any company would allow you to come work part-time. So go do that. But stop living in some delusion
delusion. Mm-hmm,
that growing a business takes no effort outside of running calls.
mm,
Like you have to understand how many extra responsibilities you just piled on top of yourself because you raised your hand and said, I'm going to be a business owner.
mm-hmm,
Now everything revolves, like everything has to happen because of you
mm-hmm.
when you're new and you don't have a team.
Yeah, and real entrepreneurs are freaking obsessed about the business, about every single part of that business, about understanding KPIs, about knowing the financials, about leadership. There's so many different
Yes.
components to the business, and in order to succeed, you need to not be part-time. That's the first step. But become obsessed. Grow your skill sets, change your mindset. I mean, again, just like what you were saying, if you really want to grow a business, and we're not saying like, I mean, if you want to be one person in a truck, that's what it is. But we have to stop being delusional when we're telling ourselves, I actually want to grow my business. I want to grow my business. I want to get to 5 million. I want to get to 10 million. Like we cannot be delusional about the work that we actually have to put in to get there. Like we have to stop telling ourselves lies, stop being delusional, right? And that's why I say, like, I am rooted in reality. I am not damaged by delusions and idealism. Because in the idealistic world, right, of what some people want when they get into entrepreneurship is butterflies and rainbows, right? Of like, I'm going to work super part time and have a $5 million business. And I'm not saying, like, again, with some employees and things like that, do you start to gain time back? Absolutely, you do. That's not what I'm saying here. But there's also still a growth component to that. You are still required. If you are the leadership, then you need to be showing up in that leadership role. And then if you aren't leadership, well, then you need to become leadership still to your leadership, right? Because then you're going to hire leaders, and then those people need to be led. So this delusion, this fantasy land about what entrepreneurship really is, what it actually takes to run a heating and air conditioning business, the a big freaking delusion that pisses me off too is a lot of people are delusional about the cost of running a heating and air conditioning business. Back to like I feel funny about the money. Like how do you feel funny if you know what it takes effort-wise, financially, emotionally to run this business, you should not feel funny about the money. You know your
That
value.
that was the switch for me, is learning that. Once I learned that, I could drop the guilt. I
Mm,
didn't have to feel guilty about what I charged
yeah.
because I
Mm-mm.
understood how much I was actually making.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it
And a
was a
lot of,
lot less than what I originally thought I was making when I charged less.
mm-hmm.
So it you
Yeah, and it 100, right? And it so it's like back to reality. The reality is, and it's unfortunate. And that's why me and Kelly get so passionate about it because it is unfortunate. Because a lot of technicians turn business owners, go out there and then they start breaking even, or worse, they start losing money. Why? Because they do not understand the reality of what it takes, the cost of doing business, what it takes to actually run a heating and air conditioning business. And then if they start to find out too, they want to avoid that portion of it. I'll just keep running calls. I'll just keep my head buried in the sand and I'll just keep running calls and that's all it's going to take. And they want to stay in that delusion. And it's not true. And that's why it's like save yourself. Like, save yourself. Get out of that delusion. Get rooted in reality. Understand what it actually takes to run a business. If not, like, I agree with what you said, Kelly, is like, if not, if we cannot accept that, if we cannot accept reality, go work for somebody because you'll probably be better off mentally, financially.
and there is no shame in doing that.
100. There
No
is no
shame. The
shame because this game ain't for
entrepreneurship,
everybody. This game ain't for everybody.
it's not. That's reality. So if you get in a little, you walk out and it starts getting a lot deeper, right?
Mm-hmm.
You start becoming aware and awake to some of these realities,
Mm-hmm.
and you're not interested in what it's going to take to get through this, to actually get to some other level, then
Yeah.
there's no shame in saying, "Hey, this wasn't what I thought it was.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to go back to work for
Not for
somebody." Like,
me.
just
Yeah.
do it.
Mm-hmm.
Just don't prolong the agony. But if you're serious about it and you've been fighting maybe for a while and you have some team members, but you're just not going anywhere, or there's not enough profit, then reach out to us. It's what we do. We
And there's no
transform
shame in that
businesses.
either. There's no shame in that either.
No,
That was programmed into you, right? That we are not supposed to like look on
ask for
other
help.
people's tests or ask for help. Like that was a complete indoctrination. That was delusion programmed into you that you're supposed to go at it alone. that you're not supposed to ask for help, that it is a weakness. Oh, well, I'm weak because I couldn't figure it out on my own.
The best, brightest, most successful in the world all have coaches. So,
Coaches,
yeah,
community, collaborations, people, people. It takes people. It takes more than just you to win at this game.
if you're in the truck all day, you're the bottleneck in your business. Your business cannot grow if it depends on you for everything. To scale it will be impossible if you refuse to face reality and just step up as a leader. Until you're ready to do that, go back to work for somebody.
This is with like all the love and respect in the
Yes.
world, because the fact that you made the jump in the first place, like I have so much respect for you, because that took a lot of courage, right? And so maybe you just need a little bit more courage to hit the next part, which is stop avoiding what needs to be addressed today,
Yes.
right? And actually make a change. So we'll leave you with that, and we'll see you on the next one. Go make some money.
Go make money. Boom.